European 500cc Grand Prix on ESPN. It was this time last year that Mick Doohan's season went bad. But it seems that this season, he's waited until now to turn up the heat. And Doohan edged Kevin Schwantz for the pole, but Wayne Rainey showed that he came to Barcelona with a new attitude, Dave. A new attitude and a new chassis, and they're related, I think. The attitude, perhaps, hey, we got nothing to lose, let's gamble. The new chassis, something called a ROC, R-O-C. It is initialed for the man who created it, Serge Rosset. It was intended to be the chassis of choice for the privateer, an inexpensive way to get into Grand Prix racing. Comparatively inexpensive is a better way to put that. It was never intended to be the factory chassis, but the factory chassis hasn't been working very well. The ROC provides more opportunity for adjustment. You can do more things with it. Rainey decided to give it a try, and it's put him in pretty good shape for qualifying.
500 qualifying saw Sean Emmett, who dropped the Harris Yamaha but qualified well, unlike fellow Brit John Reynolds, who fell harder, breaking a bone in his hand, taking him out of the race action.
Meanwhile, at the factory Yamaha camp, here's Luca Catalora. In this case, with the ROC chassis, ultimately he would race the Yamaha setup, though his teammate Rainey went with the ROC. Catalora qualified 6th.
Doug Chandler just missed the front row. He slipped off Saturday morning, but the Cagiva showed every bit the form that it had in the season's opener in Australia.
He actually had the overnight pole, was fastest in first day qualifying, and that's very, very promising for Chandler and Cagiva.
Just a half second covered the front row.
What are we going to call him this week? Crivella or Crevilla, which I think is the correct Spanish pronunciation for rider number 8, who qualified 4th and thrilled the local fans. He lives south of Barcelona, the hometown favorite in the 500 class, and he really had a pretty good run there on the Repsol machine.
Maybe those local fans could make up for the painful foot injury he sustained at Assen.
With the 3rd on the qualifying rundown, and that is Wayne Rainey. Yeah, there are the tarps that hide the secrets going on inside. Hide, in fact, the painful decision for Team Yamaha. The factory engineers cannot be thrilled with the fact that the best piece they could build simply didn't work, and Rainey has elected what is effectively a copy of the '91 Yamaha GP frame.
Rainey said, I know I get feedback now from the bike. That feedback translated into 3rd place on the grid.
All the teams are working hard. They all want to win, and you know, I think it's, you know, this circuit's quite bumpy and quite slick, and it's a real fine line of going fast and not going fast.
Second came points leader Kevin Schwantz. 5 times he's been on the pole this year, but this was the 3rd straight time, Dave, he's missed the #1 spot.
Yeah, and I don't know if that represents a strategy change. I mean, when you win 5 poles in a row and then lose 3 in a row, somebody has to be asking what's changed.
Schwantz found a weakness in the Suzuki's balance for the first time, but he's worried more about race day than he was qualifying.
If you look at the lap times and see who's been consistently into the 49s and low 49s, it gives you a pretty good idea what the race is going to be all about. It's probably 4 or 5 guys at the front, maybe 6 or 8 early on, and you know, from there it's just going to be sorting it out as to who can preserve their tires the best, who's got, like I said before, who's got it working the best, and who can manage to hang on it at the end and get around the quickest.
It was Mick Doohan again on the pole for the 2nd consecutive race. He was the only rider in the 148 bracket, and the lap came fairly early in the session, Dave.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, too, because he hadn't really been all that strong. You heard Kevin talking about 49s. This was the only guy in the 48s, and typically it happens at the last lap or so. Wasn't the case with Doohan.
Yeah, I think I got lucky. You know, it's everything seems to be working quite well with the bike. We're just trying to get everything working good. Front end seems to be the biggest problem here, and you know, we changed a few things and went out and put 1 lap together basically. But you know, we're consistently riding around fairly good, so you know, the race is going to be tough, and hopefully we can come out in front.
So the young 27-year-old from Australia, Mick Doohan, on the pole with that time you see there. An impressive performance. Schwantz alongside him with Wayne Rainey in 3rd and Crevilla in 4th. Chandler in the 2nd row along with Catalora, Beatty, and Ito. McKenzie, the leading privateer. Alex Barros trying out a new frame. Utagawa and Maya rounding out the third row as we're on board with Crevier at the start of this race. Closest to us is Doohan, then Schwantz, then Rainey starting to rev up. Crevier gets a late start. Wayne Rainey, on the other hand, just the opposite, Dave.
Well, Rainey really got a flyer, and Crevier never make a drag racer running like that. He just got caught sleeping, and it really is going to cost him here in the first lap.
Wayne Rainey goes into that first turn out in front, and he's tough when he gets the early lead. Doohan in second place, Swanson third.
Best possible scenario for Rainey, the early lead. He loves to get the whole shot, loves to lead races early, hasn't done this since Japan, and he's got to be pumped up to be out front.
Rainey said before the race, Dave, the hotter it is and the temperature is rising right now, it'll be the better for us. Tire selection, compounds, the key right now.
Yeah, there's a major story there that we'll get into in a moment, too. As Rainey leads on lap 1 with Doohan second, the thing that I marvel at here is the gap. Schwantz is a long way back in third, and the fourth place man Crevier is putting pressure on him, but here's the interval, and that surprises me. I would not expect Schwantz to let him get away like that.
Doohan hanging up as close as he can, looking for his first GP win of the season. Schwantz content with third, the only rider to finish on the rosterman every race. That's the consistency it takes to win the #1 plate. Crevier, we're on board with him, and that's Kevin Schwantz right in front of him. They're pretty hot right now.
I'll tell you, that's exciting when they get that close together. Into the right-hander. Let's see if he makes another run up onto Schwantz. Not quite as close that time. A bike lane.
Crevier, though, showing good power with Schwantz, and then he goes down.
This guy lost the front end, it looked like, and the onboard camera continues to function all the way into the gravel trap. Guy who lives just about 20 miles from the racetrack is not going to get the thrill of the home folks today. What a bad break. Let's watch it, see if it's the front that gives way. He's down the straightaway. He's trying to match Schwantz for speed. There's the turn in, and yeah, there's the tuck. The front end just went out from under him, and he's gone.
Very disappointing. He was having a good race in front of the hometown fans. Out in front, Wayne Rainey.
Classic Wayne Rainey style, grabbing the early lead and trying to split.
Wayne Rainey, three-time world champion, having his own way of it here. We go on board with Alex Barros now, looking toward McKenzie. McKenzie with a good line. Garcia right in front of him.
Bernard Garcia, the Frenchman, in fourth place. Remarkable ride for the teammate to the injured Freddie Spencer on the French Yamaha team.
Really getting down to an acute angle as they go through the turns.
The tires are so critical. The tires now more than 6 inches wide, and you can see that big fat hunk of rubber on the rear as you watch Wayne Rainey riding on a harder tire today than anybody else out there. Again, angle of lean. You're all the way over on the edge of it. The contact patch is about 2 inches by 4 inches on each tire. That's all you got between you and the road.
And look at the tremendous space, the tremendous gaps between first and second and third. Kevin Schwantz way back in third as Wayne Rainey zips by.
I don't think we can hide the fact that this is boring any longer, Art. I think people will have figured it out for themselves by now. Last week, we saw 3 guys running over the top of each other. The same the week before. This is kind of reminiscent of the dull races that we used to see 4 or 5 years ago. At the low point of the Grand Prix season, they only had a dozen to 15 bikes on the grid. Now the grids are full, and most of the races are close. But for this moment, this is the best race out there. 4th, 5th, and 6th with Alex Barros closing in. That's pretty good. That's exciting.
Barros taking advantage of the Scottish privateer. Went right with him, actually.
Great move. He just came out of the slipstream, did the double draft pass, got around them both. And this is a new chassis that he's testing for Team Suzuki. Apparently it works pretty well. Schwantz closing in a little bit, maybe.
Schwantz with 4 wins, 2 seconds, 1/3 on the year. He's been on that podium every time, as we said prior. Resting in third, really.
He knows he has another podium finish today. If he doesn't crash, the Kevin Schwantz of a couple of years ago would have had that motorcycle completely sideways. He'd have bent it double trying to get to the front and probably would have fallen off of it. This Kevin Schwantz is smart enough to be patient.
Last year, the professionalism, the stick-to-itiveness of Wayne Rainey paid off. He's trying to battle back into the points lead. Rainey leads this one with Doohan and Schwantz following. team as Wayne Rainey is let through.
Luca looking back over his shoulder, sees it's Wayne and says, here, take the racetrack, because obviously his teammate is in contention for both the win and the championship. But now it's interesting that Rainey has his teammate to ride shotgun with him. Luca had actually been circulating at lap times close to the leader. If Doohan gets excited and comes up here and tries to challenge, Luca might throw a block or two.
If the mood strikes him. He's not that kind of a guy, though.
Yeah, he would certainly get a lot of heat if he were to get serious about blocking, but we've seen team tactics before in this division.
Mick Doohan really hoping that he could win his first Grand Prix of the season. And also, he announced that he's got another operation at the end of the year, Dave.
Well, I tell you, as much surgery as he's seen in the last year, I'm sure that is not good news for Doohan, but he's got kind of a bow in the leg that he broke last year, and he says it's affecting his riding, and he wants to try to get that straight. So they're going to actually re-break it again and try to get that right leg right so that he can be 100% in 1994. He's already pretty well given up his championship hopes.
Wayne Rainey with still championship hopes alive as he's out in front of this race, doing a great job, just showing once again you give him a lead right from the beginning and he'll hold it.
I think this is the payoff for the tire choice this morning. Late in the race, when the rubber goes away, Rainey's motorcycle is proving to be the best, and he's opening up the gap on Doohan, and Schwantz has long since surrendered. He knows he's a third-place rider today.
Wayne Rainey, pretty popular face around these parts as he owns a home nearby, and so does Kenny Roberts, in fact, as we see him here.
With Randy Mamola, a great GP rider of the past, now the test rider for the Roberts team. Yeah, it's a home away from home victory. This is the race between Neil McKenzie, number 11, and number 9, Alex Barros, for fourth spot. And this is the only race out there today, and it's proven to be a pretty good one.
McKenzie in back of Barros right here. He kind of goes with him on the straightaway, and then the mid-corner speed, he really makes up some time.
Barros seems to have a pretty decent chassis that he's testing here for Suzuki, although it's clearly not as good as the one on the 34 bike of Kevin Schwantz. But you're right, this is a pretty good race, and we've got an onboard camera view from Barros' motorcycle. It'll give you some sense of what this racetrack is all about. It won't show you very much of McKenzie because McKenzie's right behind him. This is the long, slightly downhill pit straightaway, and here you get a sense of what it's like to go, 165, 70, 75 miles an hour, and then boom, onto the brake so hard, cut it right, and you got to hit that apex and then flick it right back over to the left. You really have to work to ride a 500 well.
McKenzie taking advantage of the slipstream behind Barros, the top privateer on the Rock Yamaha. His best finish in 8th, so he's on his way to a fine performance. And there we see Bernard Garcia. Spent a good many moments in the gravel traps and once again crashed while he was in 6th spot.
Washed the front end, and it's back to the gravel for the guy who was having one of his better GP rides ever today. And he's real frustrated to have crashed it away here. He had a top 6 locked in.
Speaking of locked in, Wayne Rainey, as we return to the leader, number 1, the defending champion, after taking a 5th in Germany and 3rd in Holland. Love to get back on that winner's stand.
Final lap, a typical Rainey race. Grab the hole shot, try to make the breakaway. In this case, Doohan was able to stay pretty close to him. Traffic on the last lap will hang Mick up a little bit, but Rainey totally in command from the get-go. I think he'll be very pleased with his decision to run this rock chassis. The question now, have they made the decision too late to be able to mount any kind of a challenge on Schwantz?
It depends on the consistency of Kevin Schwantz. He was right after number 2 in the far distance. He's in 3rd place.
Careful, Mick. He got a little squirrely on the braking there, trying to get that pass in on the back marker. Not a factor in the championship, certainly returning to form, Mick Doohan.
Last season, Rainey picked up a 56-point deficit, but that was against an absent, injured Doohan, not a content to be cool Kevin Schwantz. Rainey making it look easy as he heads toward his 23rd GP career victory.
That is one less than Kevin Schwantz, but this is a great day for this Marlboro Yamaha or Roberts Yamaha team, simply because they're able to keep Kevin Schwantz within arm's length in the championship chase.
And a popular win with the Spanish fans if one of their own couldn't take the checkers. Wayne Rainey. He had the unfriendly bike, he said, going into the first race of the season in Australia. Well, that one was very friendly today. Wayne Rainey atop the leaderboard with Doohan, Schwantz, Beatty, Barros, and McKenzie in that order. How does that affect the points race with Rainey in first and Swanson third? Swan still leading now by 19 points over Wayne Rainey. Beatty out early. Doohan adding some points there up into fourth. Well, it was an easy win and made for very little excitement for the fans throughout the race. A long day, though, for a pleased winner, Wayne Rainey, up on the victory stand.
His decision to change chassis, a decision I'm sure his team fought him on a little bit, has been vindicated here today. He's won the race.